Hello, and welcome to the Film Yap podcast. We're here today, as you might expect, to talk about the Oscars, which, as we're talking here, are just a few hours, dozen hours or so old. Joining me are Alec Toombs and Logan Sowah. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good to see you guys.
So, obviously, I think we should start with the end, which, wow, what an end it was.
You gonna talk about the Hopkins in the room?
Yeah, not since Moonlight have we managed to flub the landing so badly. I was surprised. I had not heard that they were doing Best Actor and Best Actress last instead of Best Picture. I don't think they've ever done it that way. And it seems pretty obvious that they did that because they wanted to honor Chadwick Boseman, who everyone thought was Best Actor, and honor him posthumously. And boy, did that not work. Not just because, I think it would have been awkward if Hopkins was there and, went up and kind of did his little speech and, at least would have had a human element to it. And we all could have sort of been like, okay, that wasn't what we expected, but it was a thing. Instead, it was just sort of like, he's not here, so the Academy will accept the award on his behalf. Good night. Wow.
Yeah, they just cut straight to Questlove because it was very clear that they were expecting something more of an emotional end. What they got instead was a surprise that I think all of us didn't expect. Because I didn't. Was it said beforehand that they were making Best Actor the last category, or was that entirely? Yeah, it was entirely a surprise.
I thought I'd stepped into the head and missed a couple categories or something.
No, me too. Yeah, like my friends were like, "Did we talk over long enough that we missed like Frances McDormand winning?" Because we all were like, "She's got to win for Best Actress." We didn't see her acceptance speech. What happened? And yeah, I guess this will be interesting to see how the Academy responds, because they have to talk about the process as to, like, obviously they didn't know. Like, it has to be they didn't expect Hopkins to win.
Yeah.
And they wanted to end it on a really high emotional note by getting Boseman a posthumous Oscar. And then it didn't. And it sucks, too, because it's like, Alec was just telling me this right before. It's just, Hopkins was phenomenal in the film by most people's accounts. And it makes sense that, and it makes sense too, the fact that he didn't show up, because the last time he won an Academy Award was for Silence of the Lambs. So he's like 83 and he's like, I don't think they're going to give me the Oscar. I'm going to go back to Wales. And then he wins overnight. So it's kind of wild that this is what happened.
I will bet you anything when he won, he was in bed sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he asked his publicist what happened.
Like 5 or 6 hours ahead, so it was the middle of the night for him.
Sure.
Well, I'll put it this way: this will hopefully lay to rest forever accusations that people, in fact, know who's going to win beforehand. Because all I can say is, it seems clear that's what they were doing. I'm guessing they had like his family there in the wings, and they had a whole tribute planned. And by God, if you're going to do all this and finagle with the order of how you give away the awards to get that thing to happen, you better be dang sure that thing's going to happen. Somebody, they should have said, like, okay, one person from the Academy this time only will let her look at the envelope and know, just so they have some warning. And they didn't do that. And boy, they should have just kept it in the same order that they'd always done. They could still have had very much the emotional high if Boseman had won. Boy,
I enjoyed the show other than them jostling the order of the awards late in the evening. Otherwise, I thought it was a good show. It had that cool, like, Soderbergh vibe. It felt like Ocean's 14 or Out of Sight Part 2. I thought Questlove was fun, and I enjoyed him spinning records. I just did a podcast before jumping on here, and Adam Austin brought up a really good point. Laurel Howery was really fun on the show. Why not have him host the whole thing?
Yeah. I thought it started out a little awkward, the one with Andra Day, and then it got a little bit better. And then, of course, Glenn Close dancing to Debut will be an Oscar moment forever. For me, it wasn't her winning, Glenn Close winning for Best Supporting Actress, but that was a moment. And my only question was, she seemed really knowledgeable about 1980s hip hop, more so than I would think a septuagenarian woman would. I don't know. That felt a little bit like a setup there. Like she was pretending like she'd never heard that before.
You don't think she's a subscriber to like XXL magazine or something?
I don't know. Which I brought up the point of, so very few people have seen School Days, which is Spike Lee's second movie. Check it out. Not a great movie, but a very bold topic. And I admit, I did not remember that song. So either Glenn Close had the goods handed to her beforehand, or she really is just that awesome.
I don't know. I think for me, if there's the biggest criticism I would have, out the fact that like they should have, I agree with you, they should have prepped for like, oh, let's make sure 110% that Chadwick's going to win, because if he isn't, maybe we should do it normally, and now this will always be tied to this Oscars whether they want it to or not. But I felt like this Oscars could have been a lot more streamlined, and while in the beginning it felt that way, they kind of felt like they were dragging it a bit too long, because like the Little Rel Howery part, I love Little Rel, but like that moment felt like they were trying to wait until the next commercial break to prep people for like Best Picture and then go into Best Actor and Actress. And I love the Oscars, but I also will admit that they are too long in a regular year, and I was glad that they was 3 hours this year, but the fact that they were still 3 hours this year in a pretty barren year at times makes it clear that like they're still kind of forcing a bit too much here and there. But yeah, I liked the lounge setup. I liked the little tidbits that they had for each nominee. I always loved the clips scenario of a normal Oscars, but I really liked in terms of like the directing nominations where they're like, they all had to explain in 20 seconds what directing is to them. Like I really liked that. And I think they had a lot of great moments throughout with that. But overall, I mean, it's just I can't get over the ending the way it did.
That's the thing. That's what's ever going to remember. I'm trying to remember. There's a classic old age Hollywood saying that was basically like, you know, give the people 3 good scenes and a solid ending, and you know most are going to walk away liking your movie. But if you muff the ending, that's all they're going to remember.
Oh yeah,
the Oscars ending was so bad. It's like Stephen King wrote it himself.
Any other highlights or lowlights? The awards went pretty much, other than Chadwick Boseman not winning. I thought Viola Davis was going to overcome McDormand, although McDormand was my choice, just because Davis had won the SAG award, and usually that tends to trend. Other surprise was Nomadland not winning screenplay. That was a surprise. Stuck in there, which I thought that was I was not expecting that at all. So not other than those, the 2 acting awards, and I would say the screenplay were the surprises to me. Any other surprises jump out at you guys?
I think off the top of my head, my 3 favorite speeches were probably, I don't want to butcher her name, but the grandmother from Minari's probably was my favorite. She was just very sweet, very acceptable, very accepting, and very appreciative of having just being adorable there. Yeah, and the fact that she was, you know, fangirling over Brad Pitt, who was just to the left of her, was very sweet.
Well, it's funny that she said, "Nice to meet you," and he's the guy who executive produced the movie that she won for.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I love that too.
Mr. Brad Pitt, nice to meet you.
A lot of people don't realize what executive producing actually means, and in this case, in Hollywood, either they front some money or they just lend their name to a production to give it mojo. Like, oh, Brad Pitt is executive producing it. You know, there's an extra $250,000 for your budget that you wouldn't have gotten from the studio otherwise.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That's often what the executive producer means.
Yeah, like if you had told me that Carey Mulligan and Emerald Fennell didn't meet Margot Robbie on Promising Young Woman, I would have probably said yeah, because she's also, I think, an EP on that film as well. But I mean, in terms of favorite wins, I'm glad Promising Young Woman got Best Original Screenplay. I feel like that was the only win that were the best chance of getting. I liked that. Thomas Vinterberg's emotional speech for winning Best International was incredible.
Yeah, that speech started very wobbly, and I literally started writing a tweet that said, "This is the speech you spent all your life preparing." But then he found his groove and got going. I thought that was a very good speech.
He and his wife are beautiful. They're a great looking couple. Like, he looked super sharp in the white tux jacket. The guy looked great.
Yes,
and it was just wild how when he started off, it was very standard Oscars, but it was still very appreciative and really good. And then he brings in the tragedy about his daughter that's tied to the film. And it just completely changed like the whole context of like, oh my God, you've been building up to this moment. And it made it even more emotional. And it felt like a really good moment to have, especially in an Oscars where it's like, I would say this Oscars also had people go on a little too long with their acceptance speeches. I think Daniel Kaluuya was a prime example of that, even though I love Daniel Kaluuya.
Mom and Dad, thanks for having sex. Appreciate
You're
it.
making me. Yeah, it's great.
I thought,
but
fucking cow artificial insemination.
Yeah.
Last year was a little weird, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Up first and hopefully
Worth it to see his mom and sister's reaction, though.
Yeah,
That was funny. His mom was so pissed. I loved that. I loved that. She was like, "Why are you talking about me having sex with your father on the Oscars? You know there's a camera on me. Don't do that."
Yeah. I had a moment which was I did not realize that Daniel Kaluuya is British. And there was a couple of people during the night that I was like, oh, I've only ever seen their performances. I've never seen them in an interview. I had no idea they were British, which brought to me the fact that British actors doing American accents have typically been terrible. Even really good actors like Kate Winslet and Anthony Hopkins do wonky American accents. This new generation of actors is so good that like I don't even know they're British.
Well, I think post Jackman, I would say Hugh Jackman's one of the biggest like contenders in terms of like when he got so popular in the X-Men and people are like, well, he's Australian. Didn't know that. Like from that point forward, it was like the American accent is apparently the easiest to do for like European and Australian in certain ways.
Yeah, see, I think an Australian accent is basically just an American accent, and they just have to just turn off the wang to it.
Yeah.
One of the moment that stood out for me, I do miss having the song performances, and I know people want the be shorter, and that's an easy way to lop out 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I do miss having like this. It really wasn't possible to do a big production, but I do miss those. The In Memoriam section is usually my favorite, just because I love going through and remember.
Okay, yeah.
So fast. I mean, and they sped it up and slowed it down according to how important
music
the person was.
Yeah.
So some people like literally got like a second and a half, and you're like, you're just finished reading it. It was too fast.
But they also did it to the music, which is also kind of shocking that I was like, when the music would get faster, they also seemed to time out the people that most audiences would know less about in those moments where they would speed up more. And it was really weird.
Brian Dennehy deserves more time than you're giving him a character.
Yeah. It was like, okay.
Why? We talk about the intro by, was it Angela Bassett that gave the intro?
Regina King.
I'm sorry.
Who they totally dissed by not nominating her for director or picture, and then she opens the show.
No, I mean it. Oh, Angela Bassett did the In Memoriam intro.
Sorry. What was the deal with that?
That was super weird.
I mean, I'll try and do my impression of her. That was so hammy and so over the top. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like, it was Shatnerian. Let me put it that way.
No, yeah, I would agree with that. It was one of those things where it's like, while it was happening, I just, at a certain point, I was like, is she still going? And also, she's putting a lot into this when it should probably be very somber, very humble, not much of a performance for an In Memoriam. And
I'd make fun of her eye makeup. I've seen The Woman's Guns. I don't want any part of that. So.
Yeah, I think that's really a less is more moment, and she go for more, and then she went for a little more. Well, overall, I mean, what's your guys' overall take on the year in movies now that the Oscars have kind of officially closed the door on 2020 cinema? I mean, my take is I still think it was a solid year for movie. There's a lot to celebrate. Should they even do the Oscars? I'm like, of course they should do the Oscars. And I honor those filmmakers and studios that still put their movies out there in pandemic, even though they know they were not going to make much money on them. Maybe take a loss, take a write down. I think that was the smarter move, and I wish more studios had done it.
People who say there weren't good movies coming out in 2020 just didn't watch enough. I mean, I saw 160, 170 movies that came out last year. And there's some really good stuff out there. You're just not looking hard enough if you don't.
And not only is there good stuff out there from last year, there was good stuff that got snubbed from this year. I mean, there was still, even in a pandemic year, there was still enough good stuff that even that didn't get, like, a lot of that got snubbed. And I think this year it showed. I think they had a strong lineup through and through. There's like one film I think could have been replaced for practically every award it was nominated for, but everything else I thought, excluding like VFX, because I felt like VFX were the weakest this year because it was like they didn't have a lot of blockbusters this year, so they have like Mulan, which looked terrible VFX wise, and Love and Monsters.
I liked Love and Monsters, and I actually thought for a movie that was as low budget as it was, its effects were pretty good. It wouldn't get nominated in a normal year, but I'm like,
oh no, it wouldn't. But yeah, I mean, it was
those artists acknowledged.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. But it's like it showed. There were certain categories where it showed like this was the year where like it was the pandemic, but at the same time, I feel like the acting nominations were all pretty strong. I would say directing, even though it was pretty obvious who was going to win, I thought was very strong. And it was, I think overall, it shows that even in a weak year like 2020, it still has fairly strong films when they're really good. And I feel like it shows that. I think I don't know.
I think it only was really reflected in those quote unquote technical awards, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider, but people say cinematography, sound, all those, which you tend to see the big budget movies kind of dominate. So other than that, so Tenet is officially, I believe, it won 2 Oscars, making Tenet has 2 more Oscars than many, many thousands of movies that are actually good.
Oh, I mean, if there's anything Tenet deserves to win, it's for the technical aspects. Like, if it won for best original screenplay, then you would know how bad it was, like how like bare bones of a year it would be. But I mean, let's talk about a film that we both enjoy. I think, Alec, do you enjoy Mank? Do you enjoy Mank?
I'm a fan. I'm not sure I'm as high on it as Chris is, but I like it.
I was gonna say I didn't expect Mank to really win anything. So I was just happy that it won a few things.
The most nominations, and I was expecting it to get blanked. I was expecting it to not get anything.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to win cinematography, but I was glad that they did.
It deserved it, but I would have probably gone for Nomadland instead. But both of those are great looking movies. In terms of snubbies, I mean, you can go into the individual categories. Regina King for director.
Yes.
I would probably replace Thomas Vinterberg with her. A couple of movies that I was really high on, I surprised didn't do that, were Emma and the Personal History of David Copperfield. Which, in general, I'm not big on adaptations of musty old British novels because they just tend to be musty.
It sounds like you are, though.
Yeah, but like Little Women last year, when that was done, I was just sort of like, this is really sort of a conventional choice for this filmmaker to do for her second movie. So I was a little upset with this, but like I thought Emma, that was a first time rookie director making that. She's a veteran music videos and shorts and things like that. And I thought it was a fantastic directorial debut. I would love to have seen her honored. And same thing with Personal History of David Copperfield. Like I said, taking really new twists on these novels that I was not expecting. So I would have loved to have seen those. A couple of others. Small here and there, but overall, I thought it was a pretty good representation. There wasn't too many nominees that were left off that I was just like, that was a crime.
I would have liked to have seen Rosamund Pike nominated, but that category was very competitive.
Yeah, Best Actress I thought was really strong this year. Best Actor a little weak, I thought.
Best Actor was, I'm going to be honest, I think you could really replace Sacha Baron Cohen with a multitude of other people in that category. I mean, I don't think he's awful in Twilight of the Chicago 7, but hot take here. I think he's better in Borat 2, to be honest. But no, I mean, I think if there's anything I would have liked to have seen more, and this is, I think, a niche thing, but I would have liked it when Soul won. Pete Docter and the other producer that was up there with him would have talked about Kemp Powers' involvement, because Kemp Powers wrote One Night in Miami. And he also, apparently from a lot of news, is Kemp Powers saved Soul in a lot of places because they brought him in because they didn't have a lot of diversity in the writing and the technical aspects, and Kemp came in and basically steered a ship that could have been a good dinosaur kind of scenario. And I would have liked to have seen him get, kind of some respect for that. But I'm not saying that Pete Docter's a horrible person or anything like that. I think they did exactly what they usually do with an Oscar win, where it's just like, the film's about music teachers and teachers in general. We should love our teachers and give them all the support they can get. I mean, I just
tell the kids to go to bed, probably.
Yeah. But I think it was, I don't know. I when I saw that, I was like, cool. I know it's not directors up there, but Kemp was probably a bigger part than most people know, so it would have been nice.
Yeah, I thought Wolfwalkers was the better animated film this year, but the Disney Pixar film almost always wins, and a lot of people were emotionally. I think the movie works really well at the beginning and the end. The whole middle part in what I call metaphysical land, it just didn't work for me. It took me out of the movie. Too much details about this soul fits with this overseer. It didn't. That part didn't work for me.
See, that's the thing.
That's the thing. An Onward guy. I was rooting for Onward.
I mean, I think Onward's pretty good, if not great, in most cases. But I also knew, like, if they're putting Soul up there with it, it has no chance, and it sucks. But
by the way, how did I not know beforehand that Trent Reznor was competing against himself in the musical score category?
I was gonna say I loved that when I saw that initially.
Like literally, when he came to the thing, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's the thing." I didn't know, and I'm looking it up online on my other computer. I'm like, "Oh, he was nominated twice." I don't remember seeing any stories about him being nominated, because that's very rare for somebody to be nominated for two different movies in the same category.
But what's even better is if you watch that clip where they have a camera on each nominee. They gave Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross 2 separate camera setups, as if they're 2 separate groups of people for both Mank and Soul, where it's like, well, I think it also is because John Batiste did a lot of the jazz instrumentation. So they just have a second camera next to the Mank camera that just has all 3 of them in like a line. And so it's just 2 shots of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross at the end. It felt so silly, but again, I think they did great in Mank and they killed it in Soul. So I'm glad they won for at least one of them.
Yeah. The I want to bleep you like an animal guy is just killing it at the Oscars, which is cool.
I know, it's so wild. Just like, oh gosh.
All right. Well, thanks guys. Great talk. I think a good year for movies. Hopefully we'll have an even better one this year, and we can get back together again next year, talk about next year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Good talking with you both. Take care.